All proceeds of this video will be donated to the Wounded Warrior Project. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has to be one of the most divisive games in the franchise. Either you love it or hate it, and in my case, I hate it. However, in today's video, I will try to give an objective take on the good, the bad, and the ugly within FNAF 2. There will even be a surprise fourth category at the end of this video. So, let's grab our spare Freddy mask and dive in. You have a few options regarding truly good things within FNAF 2. Now, it does boil down to personal preference, but there's one thing I believe everyone can objectively agree is good within Five Nights at Freddy's 2. That being the post-death minigames within FNAF 2. These minigames added a new layer to FNAF 2's gameplay, injecting lore and storytelling into Five Nights at Freddy's. Objectively speaking, these minigames would be why Five Nights at Freddy's became such a massive success. Sure, the phone calls sprinkle some lore hints here and there, but the minigames gave fans something to latch onto. The Foxy Go 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 minigame started out as a cute 8-bit game of Foxy running out to entertain children, but by the end, we see this grinning man in the bottom left corner watching us run out to a room full of dead children. After that, we get jump scared by Withered Foxy, but to most players, that's not what scared them. What frightened them was the realization that those kids in the audience were murdered by the sprite we saw earlier. Heck, the first time I played FNAF 2, I distinctly remember my mind exploding at such a crazy reveal. I imagine the same thing happened to many other players experiencing this minigame for the first time. The other minigame in which Freddy delivers cake to the children starts innocently. You're just good old Freddy giving cake to some hungry kiddos. But it doesn't take long to notice the child locked outside the restaurant, noticeably crying. Then a car drives by with the same sprite that gets out of the vehicle and murders this innocent child. This minigame seems to hint that the child locked outside is the puppet, which appears to be confirmed by the puppet jump scaring us when the minigame is over. Now, massive credit to Scott for sticking to this story and providing more of an explanation in Pizzeria Simulator with the security puppet minigame. But it's still cool that we had massive revelations like this within FNAF 2. These minigames transcend the gameplay of FNAF 2, because you may avoid this game because of its gameplay, but you can't deny the effect it had on FNAF's development as a franchise. We get to see the man behind the slaughter and what his actions have caused. Even the minigame titled Give Gifts shows us why the children's spirits possess the animatronics. It's because the puppet placed the children in the suits. Now, if you want to argue whether the puppet merged the spirits of the children with the suits, or if the puppet placed them in the suits, you can. That's what the comment section is for. Regardless, you can't deny how these minigames changed everything for the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. For that reason, I'm placing these minigames in the good category. Now it's time to talk about the bad category within this game. But before I get into that, don't hesitate to take this template and use it in the comment section below. Tell me what you think is good, what's bad, and what's ugly in your opinion. So the bad of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is what I will call the drive-thru. What is this and why did I choose this name? Firstly, my name is Sandwich, so I wanted to use a food-based name. Secondly, the drive-thru is my name for the system you play in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. To help with my illustration, imagine you're a worker at a drive-thru for McDonald's. You're the one people come to for their food, and then they leave. So Withered Bonnie pulls up to the window. You put on your mask, his version of food. He gets his mask, and then leaves. Oh look, Toy Freddy's now here. He looks like he needs a salad, but you give him his mask and quarter pounder. Now he leaves, and suddenly Withered Chica is in your office, also wanting some mask and fries. Once she's happy, you divert your attention away and wind the music box. You know, like an employee making sure a drink is made or the fries don't burn. Because if you let those fries burn, your boss, the puppet, is gonna kill you. Once done with that, you must deal with a Karen at the end of the hallway, Withered Foxy. Did any of that make sense? As someone who's only worked in retail and warehouses, I don't know if any of that was correct or made sense. The point I'm trying to make is that the process of FNAF 2 can become extremely redundant and mind-numbing. The first 2 nights might be the most engaging because it's new and fresh. The first time you see Withered Bonnie in your office or an animatronic in your hallway, it's exciting, but the excitement doesn't stay there for long. Now, I know some of you FNAF 2 stans are already commenting on how somebody can apply the same criticism to fan favorites like FNAF 1 and 4. However, FNAF 1 and 4 have something in common that keeps the player invested throughout: audio and ambiance. In FNAF 1, you're constantly hearing the footsteps of animatronics as they get closer, or Freddy's noises in the pizzeria. Even the sound of the light button and camera flipping up is pure perfection. FNAF 4's audio use also prevents it from becoming as redundant as FNAF 2. You have to be so locked in and focused on hearing the breaths of the animatronics and the footsteps of Foxy or Nightmare Fredbear that it prevents you from turning your brain off. FNAF 2's sound is this, the odd balloon boy hello,
Hello?
and maybe mangle in your vent. these noises aren't enough to keep me fully locked in and focused like other FNAF games have. To prove my point further, I will share a secret. Now this is something I thought I would take to the grave, but people have asked me, so I feel you're owed an answer. The question is, if you hate FNAF 2 so much, why do you stream it? The answer is that the game is so easy, I can read my chat and play it simultaneously. I've even beat the first 5 nights with no deaths while reading chat frequently. I have tried, but can't do that while playing Five Nights at Freddy's 4. I always end up dying because I'm responding to a chatter and not paying enough attention to breaths or where an animatronic is. FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 might be the only OG games that I can do this to. Pizza Simulator's office section requires your full attention, and even FNAF 1 makes you focus on power consumption and optimizing everything you do. That's why the bad of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the redundant nature of this game, but now it's time for the ugly of FNAF 2. The ugly of FNAF 2 is hands down the camera system. Your natural response to this might be, but Sandwich, you don't use the camera system in FNAF 2, so how does that put it in the ugly category? To that I say, aha, gotcha. That is entirely my point. The camera system within FNAF 2 is never used in your typical gameplay. If you're focused on beating FNAF 2 and surviving Five Nights at Freddy's, you'll flash your flashlight, check the vent lights, open the camera, wind the music box, and immediately put the mask on once the camera is down. You won't waste time searching the cams to find where Balloon Boy or Withered Freddy is. However, I understand that putting the camera system in the ugly category can feel excessive, but I needed to put it here because Scott Cawthon might agree with me. Many other fans and I love Scott Cawthon for his desire to correct issues from prior games and future games. People often attribute Scott's mindset towards making games solely to the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. You wouldn't be wrong, but you're not seeing the larger picture. When Scott released FNAF 3, he had intended to end the story of Five Nights at Freddy's and move on to his next project. However, something that bothered him was the criticism from fans that FNAF 3 had lost the original scare and horror that made FNAF famous. Using this criticism as fuel, Scott would make Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which many still consider one of the scariest Five Nights at Freddy's games. You could apply this to Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Some in the video game industry thought Five Nights at Freddy's would remain in a smaller niche, but Security Breach and Help Wanted prove FNAF could rake in money and gain global attention. So let's apply this same logic to Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The camera system was so poorly implemented in FNAF 2 that Scott aimed to improve it in FNAF 3 by making the player use the camera system to track down an animatronic. Scott likely made it his mission to have the cameras be a core part of the game. Looking back at FNAF 1, the cameras were only necessary to check Foxy and keep Freddy from killing you. However, Scott incentivized looking at the cameras with rare screens and text like "It's me" on the cams. Even watching Foxy run down the hall was a reason to use the cameras. Within FNAF 2, there aren't the same benefits to looking at the cameras. Yes, Shadow Freddy and the Endo are reasons to look, but they are extremely rare. Seeing the "It's me" on Foxy's poster felt very common, and watching him run down the hallway was highly satisfying. You don't have an equivalent to that within FNAF 2's cameras. Also, this ties back to the audio and ambiance of horror, but within FNAF 1, you search the cameras for Bonnie and Chica because you're afraid. The noises and ambiance do such an excellent job of pulling you into the game that as a player, you will do anything to not get jump scared or surprised by the animatronics. And it's for that reason you check the cameras in a rush trying to find them. You want to relieve the tension that builds when you don't know where Bonnie or Chica is because they could be right outside your door. So Scott channeled something similar when making FNAF 3, constantly using the cameras to monitor Springtrap and making sure he doesn't break free. Because in the time you lose him, he could be in a vent, hidden on a distant cam, or right in your face. So now it's time for the surprise fourth category that I mentioned at the start of the video. This category is what I am calling the perfect. I know you're all shocked. This FNAF 2 hater somehow thinks something is perfect within FNAF 2. So what do I think is perfect? The custom nights. Trust me, I haven't lost my mind, just let me explain. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was the first to introduce mini challenge nights within the custom night experience. These nights had preset difficulties for animatronics and would remove some while making others extremely difficult. This mode is where I feel FNAF 2 thrives. The first 5 nights of a FNAF game are meant to be treated as serious gameplay. This is where you get your scares, your 6 AM clutches, and your minigames. However, the custom night is an experience where none of that matters. You're going to die over and over and over again because you're trying to complete something. Whether it's 420 on FNAF 4 or FNAF 1, you know dying will be a part of it. This means that the jump scares or ambiance of the game don't matter. Here, in this chaos, is where FNAF 2 is fun. You get to enjoy the highs of beating 1020 mode and collecting more toys for your desk. But there are also the lows of Toy Bonnie ruining a run or Withered Foxy attacking from nowhere. The custom nights are where FNAF 2's flaws are something you gloss over because you already wasted your time getting to this point. So why not beat a few more nights? In the end, if you like FNAF 2, I don't care. Have a nice day.